It's the next great American cycling race. The 2007 Tour of Missouri is here. Discovery Channel has brought an all-star cast, including Levi Leipheimer, who wears the Stars and Stripes, George Hincapie, who's been there for all of their Tour de France victories, and many of the prominent domestic cyclists here in the U.S. have come to Missouri. Over 100 racers in all will ride from Kansas City to St. Louis. 6 days, over 560 miles, and Discovery Channel in their final race on American soil. The rich subplots begin next at the Tour of Missouri. We welcome you to Kansas City for stage one of the inaugural Tour of Missouri. Steve Schlanger alongside Dave Towle, an absolutely perfect day for racing, and the Discovery Channel team has brought all their heavy hitters, including George Hincapie.
Yeah, George Hincapie looks to be the team leader here. He'll be supported by what really is a Tour de France level team, including the winner of this year's event, Alberto Contador, in the field. A lot of autographs will be signed here this week, Steve, as Discovery Channel really is now in their swan song.
Well, huge crowds lining the upscale Plaza District here in Kansas City as the governor, Matt Blunt, fires the starting gun to get this 85-mile race underway. It's an out and back course today, taking the riders north of Kansas City through the suburbs. They'll wind back into the Plaza area, then do a few circuits around this Country Club Plaza area. And the big boys riding off the front early, Dave.
Yeah, today's stage looks like it should be controlled by the sprinters teams here, as we see our American champion Levi Leipheimer with Nathan O'Neill there, all the heavy hitters on the front row as they just had their call up. That's Ivan Dominguez, certainly a rider to watch later today. The crowd in Kansas City will be treated to a real show as we'll be coming back into town and doing a couple circuits right in town before the finale.
And this is just part of the parade route that the riders will ride as they leave town and now out onto the open roads. And we're just north of the city limits at this point. As you can see, not a cloud in the sky, temperatures in the low 70s. This is a terrific day for racing and the first ever day at the Tour of Missouri, 6 days in all, as tomorrow we go from the town of Clinton to Springfield in the southwestern part of the state. But a lot of serious racing to be done today as the sprinters teams will, and a crash occurring right.
Yeah, that's young Ben Raby, a rider from Boulder, Colorado, going down there. You can see how quickly he's back up on the bike. Water bottle there, separating from the cage, but Raby was okay and was able to rejoin the peloton here as some semblance of order started to reveal itself. And there's another teammate there, KodakGalley.com, on the front here. And that would be coming through Valery Kobzarenko of the Navigator squad, the strong Ukrainian rider. Looks like he's really driving this break right now.
And some of the beautiful countryside that the riders will see as they pass by today. This is the main field chasing down this breakaway that has started to form, but on such a flat course like we have here today, with laps around the plaza area in the final few miles. Very difficult for these guys to really stay away all day.
Yeah, Tyler Red coming through. Tim Johnson just finishing up his pole. This is a workmanlike group that we've got that's come together, including a rider who'll be in contention for our Build-A-Bear Best Young Riders jersey, James Meadley, the Australian on Jelly Belly. We got a whole different kind of freight train right now bearing down on the finish line here at the Tour of Missouri. Stage one already hotting up.
Well, I'd like to see the time gap between the leaders and that train. Have they dropped the train? Exactly what's the split? Yeah. I want to know those times.
Looks like some riders taking a natural break here. It's 85 miles. That's going to be almost 3 hours in the saddle for this group, and the breakaway really now has solidified. Everyone working well together. The 5 riders in this group continue to extend their advantage. And right now, you get the feeling Tim Johnson is one of the more motivated riders in the group. You can see the Health Net man has opened it up to 2 minutes and 5 seconds back to the chase.
Now, Discovery doing a little work at the front, but eventually it's going to have to be the sprinters teams that come to the front of the main field if they want to get those guys into position, bring the breakaway back, and give their sprinters a chance at victory at the end of the day.
And clearly that will be Toyota United riding in support of Ivan Dominguez. The Cuban Missile certainly is one of our four-star favorites for today. It's also worth noting the other Pro Deer squad here in attendance. Obviously, we've talked about Discovery Channel, but Luciano Pagliarini, the Brazilian rider, that's his teammate there sitting second wheel. As we watch the gap now extended almost to 3 minutes here, you wonder how much more leash they're going to give them. But, Steve, I would say definitely watch for Pagliarini today along with Dominguez.
And it is Pro Deer Sonia Duval along with Discovery Channel out front right now, working the head of the peloton with the breakaway still up the road and now passing the scores of fans. A lot of kids taking some time off of school on this afternoon, watching these riders pass by on roads that they ride after school so often.
Yeah, the pre-publicity was outstanding on the Tour of Missouri this year, as every school that lined the route received some educational materials that helped the young people in Missouri really bond and identify with this sport. The gap is now at 3 minutes and 38 seconds, so it looks like Sonia Duval has decided that they're going to try to control things. They're getting some help from Discovery Channel here. Discovery Channel just doesn't want to let anything get out of hand here. Once again, I think we're going to be talking about this throughout the week, and if stage one here in the Kansas City area is going to be any indicator of the support that the race has from the fans here in Missouri, I think we're in very, very good shape.
Discovery Channel is no doubt the marquee team here at this Tour of Missouri. They just want to make sure that their GC hopes are protected going forward into tomorrow, and then the Stage 3 individual time trial. As you just saw right there, the gap has been extended to 4.5 minutes now. How much farther do you think it'll get out there?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be about the high water mark right now, especially when you see Discovery Channel. It looks like George does have the guys up on the front here. Tony Cruz is the rider sitting right on George's wheel. So the time board there goes back and forth from the peloton up to the breakaway. The break now seeing the same board that they just showed the peloton a couple minutes ago, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I think that riders like Tim Johnson, that's the Health Net man that you can see, Tyler Wren, they're working very well, and I think that they're going to realize this is about as much as we're going to get. We see a couple more seconds tacked on up to 4:40 now.
Explain the tactics in getting in a first day breakaway like the guys we saw a moment ago.
Well, you know, I mean, just about every director sportif has told his team that we need to get one rider in this move, and it becomes incredibly dynamic out there. As a matter of fact, you'd have to use the word pandemonium going on at the front of the peloton. As a move goes clear, they'll get 100 meters, which really is, 5 seconds before the evaluation will be made. The directors will take inventory and decide whether they like this move or not. And Steve, this breakaway was probably the 5th one that went up the front, and this one is sticking. We'll be right back with more from the Tour of Missouri.
Gorgeous day here in the western part of the state of Missouri. Stage 1, bringing the 116 riders who took the start today back into the city limits of Kansas City. The leaders still off the front. Here they come back onto the streets of the Plaza District.
Yeah, the man on the front right now, Ukrainian Valery Kobzarenko, is really known for going in these early moves. I think the big question mark to the American riders in the breakaway would be the German on the Sparkas team. Obviously, it's coming back now, and it's coming back quickly. As there's Levi Leipheimer. He's not actually sitting on George Hincapie's wheel here. Discovery Channel is going to turn it over to the sprinters teams here any moment now, because Toyota United is going to be looking to get Ivan Dominguez up to the front. And certainly at this point, Discovery Channel has done everything they need to do to neutralize what was a somewhat dangerous move there.
So we have a fairly good idea that the catch of the breakaway will eventually be made. But let's keep in mind, as far as the peloton, there is an art to the catch in terms of timing it just so, isn't there?
Absolutely, as the crowds are awesome here in Kansas City. But you're right, you want to feather this group right now. If you bring them back too early, the counterattack will come and you find yourself right back behind the 8 ball again as far as trying to chase them back. So as they come through, there's 2 circuits in Kansas City now. And this group continues to work well together, but I think they're going to realize the writing is on the wall. And you're absolutely right. The peloton right now is stalking their prey. They've got them right where they want them. And you can expect to see at about 1 lap to go that catch being made. The gap continues to come down here.
And it's a pretty flat and straight start-finish area, as the main field now just over 1 minute behind.
This is Steven Koza of Slipstream Chipotle on the front, young rider from Petaluma, California, who actually made the cut As far as Slipstream Chipotle going into 2008, the team is vastly improved, and Steven, one of the young riders that'll still be along for the ride, he's working with Ivan Stevich. Ivan in the blue World Champions jersey, representing him as the B World Championships. Smaller nations from around the world contested their World Championships in South Africa earlier this year. The gap continues to come down, and this is the feathering that we've been talking about, Steve. They don't want to bring them back too quickly right now, but they want to keep them right there when the catch remains imminent.
And this is a small hill on the 2 laps that they have to ride around Kansas City, and this is something that may catch the riders off guard. They didn't ride this when they left the start-finish area earlier today, so they may be seeing this for the first time. And when you've ridden so many miles already on a day like today, Dave, that can really be a leg breaker.
And another thing that's worth noting here is how wide the boulevards are in Kansas City. It's going to be very, very hard to control the peloton as they make their way through the final 2 circuits. At 41 seconds right now, Discovery Channel sending riders back up to the front. That's Tony Cruz, it looks like, who's going to make this effort here to try to shut this down. I think they're going to be setting up Popovich today, or possibly Hincapie. George certainly wouldn't mind picking up the bonus seconds that'll be on the line, and the group continuing to lose their momentum here as we're watching 2 riders getting dropped out of the breakaway now, and it looks like Mamos, the Sparkas rider from Germany, is the man in the red here. Valery Klobzarenko has stayed up in the mix, and then Tim Johnson has really been the animator here in the breakaway today, and he's taken it down to 3.
Well, if you're one of those final 3, you either have to attack out of this group, bury yourself, do whatever you can, because at this point you're all in.
And you can see the peloton knows exactly where they are. They actually had an opportunity to look at the breakaway, see how well they're working together, and get a feel. Sometimes when you're seeing that time board and you're getting time splits, it's actually nice to get visual confirmation. That's what the peloton had right there. See the group spread out across the road, another one of these dynamic moments where the chasing comes very, very hard, and you can see now they are just about to take them down here. As like watching a lion take down an injured antelope on the Serengeti. They're going to make the catch.
Boy, you are savage. You are just a savage beast in your description. And now the breakaway riders looking over their shoulders, they realize that it's all but over. The peloton has hunted them down, and in just a few moments, everyone will be together in these final laps around this beautiful part of the Kansas City area.
And as we watch the breakaway being reabsorbed into the peloton, this is a very dynamic moment. As it looks like BMC, though, is going to try to control things. The gap sits at 9 seconds now, but once again, the catch is imminent here. Jacob Rosenbarger is driving for BMC here. Jonathan Garcia, another up-and-coming young American, just came back from the Good Luck Beijing test event in China. Tim Johnson right now looking over his shoulder, trying to pick up where his Health Net Max's team is in this group to see if he can be any assistance to Carl Menzies. Menzies, the rider that they should be setting up today, the Tasmanian, came to Missouri very, very hungry.
Well, this group about to get swallowed up by the peloton, and now you'll have to start watching for the counterattacks to come from guys who weren't part of that original breakaway.
Yeah, absolutely. That, and what BMC is trying to do right now is set up their teammate Dan Schmatz, another Missouri native. We talked about Brad Huff a little earlier, and Brian Java of the Jelly Belly team, the 3 riders from Missouri in their home state tour. But as the catch has been made, they're setting it up for the finale here. The Spinners teams will be battling to get positioning. BMC in red is still on the front.
All right, where is Ivan Dominguez? He might have been lost somewhere in the pack. Didn't see Toyota United there at the front.
Well, Toyota United will be trying to pilot fish Ivan Dominguez up to the front right now. And look at this, George Hincapie hitting out from the group, trying to steal some bonus seconds. It looks like Slipstream Chipotle is going to try to jump on that wheel. This would be a big, big surprise if George was able to hold them off to the line. One of the most marked riders in the race. And Hincapie is absolutely burying himself right now, trying to get away from this group. You will see the alarm bells will be ringing back in the peloton here. There's just about every team will be looking to chase this man back.
Boy, he's just trying to catch the group by surprise. He's not a pure sprinter like some of these other guys, and he now has somebody coming up onto his wheel. Somebody's bridged across there.
And that is a Navigators team, and I believe that's Sergei Lagutin, the Uzbekistani rider on Navigators. He's going to go right by George, try to counter. Hincapie, just such a huge engine, is able to get on that wheel, and you can see that look over. That almost tells you this is not going to work, because as Lagutin makes his way up to Hincapie, he doesn't look like he's going to drive George to the line. It'll flick of the elbow there, and George doesn't even come through.
Well, George is going to sit right where he is right now. He wanted to see if he could catch that group by surprise, use that element to ride away from the rest of the main field. He now sees it cannot be done. He'll sort of slow it down as they meander through these wide streets of Kansas City.
This is where it is so hard to be patient in the race because your sprinters need to stay back in the peloton. Trying to jump across to that group will put paid to your effort. You can see Leipheimer very well positioned as well. Our American champion is sitting fourth wheel, and then it looks like that is Dan Schmatz there in the BMC jersey. So now that's exactly, they've gone off the gas here just a little bit. They're going to be reshuffling that deck one final time, and we'll see who's going to post it here. It looks like Help Net Maxis is attacked out of this group. This will be Frank Pip, and Pip is now opening up a little bit of a gap, but you can see they've gone single file right behind him. Just about every major team in the race represented on the front right now, and they once again are trying to get their sprinter to the line. And here we go, winding it up from 300 meters out. It looks like riders are jumping all over the place. Look at that go up on the inside. It looks like Ivan Dominguez is absolutely throttling himself on the way to the line. Coming out of nowhere, Dominguez posting it, stage one winner. Toyota United's Ivan Dominguez. He'll be in yellow to start tomorrow.
Everybody wanted to be the first man to wear the yellow jersey as the first ever leader of the Tour of Missouri, but that honor now belongs to the Cuban, Ivan Dominguez of Toyota United.
Like in the last turn, I look and I'm like, wow, this is very far, but I'm gonna go and see what happened. And I start going, passing guys like they were standing. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So.
Our first ever leader at the Tour of Missouri, Ivan Dominguez of Toyota United. Zach Bell also picking up some bonus seconds out there today. The Canadian in second, and Kyle Walmsley, the American on the Navigator squad, rounding out our top three. Pagliarini and Meadley make up the top five.
Stage two of the Tour of Missouri takes us to Clinton in the western part of the state. Our first day of point-to-point racing as the riders make their way down to the southwestern college town of Springfield. George Hincapie, 27th overall after the first day of racing, but a very popular figure wherever he goes, greeted by rounds of applause in Kansas City yesterday and Clinton here today.
Tour de France winner Alberto Contador certainly adding some class to the Tour of Missouri here this year. Another start, and we'll see how long it takes before the fireworks begin, as we expect a breakaway to go away early here today. So as they roll out of Clinton, once again, the dignitaries of the peloton on the front here, the riders who received that pre-race call up. And we take a look at the field as they roll out of Clinton.
Including the yellow jersey wearer, Ivan Dominguez, on the left side of your screen. He won the sprint finish in the Plaza District of Kansas City yesterday, so the Toyota United wearing yellow here on day number 2. And the crowds continue to be massive here in western Missouri, and this only the second of 6 days of racing. We're expecting terrific weather like this, terrific scenery, and fabulous crowds throughout this week-long event.
And clearly Discovery Channel is the big story here this week, their last major race on American soil, and for that matter, really the last time that this band of brothers will come together. Johan Bruyneel is directing the squad, and George Hincapie certainly has all the heavy hitters at his disposal here. And it looks like Levi Leipheimer, after his win just 2 weeks ago at the U.S. Pro Road Championships, that was in Greenville, South Carolina, Hincapie's hometown, and it looks like Leipheimer is at George's service here today. Davide Frattini, the Colavita Sutter home team, is going to open up the throttle here. We'll see who wants to go with them. It looks like BMC is marking this move. And we'll see riders now jumping up to this group, and we'll see how big it's going to get. We'd expect to see 8 to 12 riders or so in the breakaway that sticks. Representation from just about every team in the race would be expected. That looks like big George Hincapie right there in the middle of that group. George would be the man in blue. Slipstream Chipotle doesn't let a move go without 1 or 2 riders. They even at times have been getting a little bit greedy this season as they try to make sure the odds are stacked in their favor anytime there's a breakaway.
Boy, we always consider a field sprint at the finish to be one of the most chaotic moments of the race, but don't forget about these early stages every day when there's a break trying to form. It's a very frenetic time. George Hincapie of Discovery Channel is up in the break, so now you have to wonder, with Big George's presence, does it make it more likely or less likely to be the one that goes away and sticks?
With a heavy favorite like Hincapie in this move, you would expect to see it being chased back very quickly, but now that they've opened up this gap, and Hincapie really looks like he's coaching some of the other riders here and trying to get the most out of them, trying to get them to participate, be all in on this break. And with just about every team in the race represented here, Hincapie looks around and he can see that he's got Dominique Rollin, the Kodak Gallery, the very, very fast finisher. Will Frischkorn, who just came off a huge win at Univest last week, he's in the Argyle there of the Colavita Sutter home team. And there's enough quality riders in this move representing all of the big teams in the race except for Toyota United. And it looks like they have come to Missouri to race for stage wins. It doesn't look like they're going to be protecting the yellow jersey of Ivan Dominguez here today.
Well, George Hincapie really coming to this race initially to get his fitness for the World Championships next week in Stuttgart, Germany, but he also wants to be an animator of this race. He doesn't want to sit idly by, especially because he lost the Stars and Stripes in his hometown of Greenville last week.
Well, you can see the huge pull that Hincapie took up that climb there. He's doing about 30% more work than any other rider in this group because that's what it's going to take. If Hincapie is only working as hard as the other riders in the breakaway, it's not going to stick because other riders will start backing off their work level. But right now, everyone's seasoned, especially as George is taking them up over that nasty little riser there. Hincapie goes to the front continually. If he sees the speed dropping, he goes back up there and regulates things. And George Hincapie really is the boss of this group right now. And so the peloton, I think, is going to start giving them some leash. We saw Toyota United had Chris Weary up on the front. He and Baldwin was holding it at about 30 seconds for quite a while. No other teams were participating in the chase. And I think they decided to go ahead and just let it go and see, Health Net Maxis has Frank Pipp in the breakaway right now. Pipp would be one of your favorites for the stage win here today, but when it comes to the stage 3 time trial, Hincapie would certainly be much better than Pipp in that discipline. So does Health Net right now really want to race with Frank Pipp for what should be a 5th to 8th place if this breakaway stays away in the overall? And you wouldn't think so. So Nathan O'Neill will probably be going to his team and asking them to start to chase this back a little bit. It continues to grow. We're looking at 4 minutes and 31 seconds right now from the chase up to the break.
And it seems like they are slowing down. The peloton has basically conceded that this is the break that is going to stick, going to go down the road. So they've really backed off the gas here, maybe more than you might even expect.
Critical bonus seconds are available, and you can see it looks like locking horns right now. Dominic Roland and George Hincapie, 3 seconds for the winner over the line, 2 for second and 1 for third, and Roland will pick up maximum bonification, but Big George will have 2 seconds deducted from his time, and they'll come back together now in the breakaway and get back to the order of the day, which is just a hard-working breakaway, and the gap is just blown up. 11 minutes and 6 seconds. As you can see, riders warning each other of road hazards there. We'll be back with more of Stage 2 here at the Tour of Missouri.
Well, George Hincapie continues to be the main protagonist in this breakaway, doing long, extended pulls at the front, really working hard. The other riders, many of them domestic-based riders, looking to a European veteran like George to figure out what to do in this breakaway, and George is really pulling him along, increasing the gap here on stage 2.
You can see Pipp is talking with his team car right now as they're working on their strategy, deciding if they want this to go or not. Interesting to see David Cañada is in this group. 17 minutes. It's almost a replay of stage 3 at the Tour de Georgia this year. Cañada was also in that breakaway. So the Cañada factor looks like it's playing out here today. Another rider that's interesting to see in the group is Valery Kobzarenko, his second long break, just 2 stages in, and he's been in both big moves.
Well, you got to ask yourself the question now, is this a mistake on the part of the rest of the teams back in the peloton? I mean, a break 17 minutes ahead of the main field seems like an excessive amount of time.
It's a Mexican standoff back there right now. Nobody wants to chase this group back. And, right now, you've really got to wonder. Some of the teams are well positioned, as clearly Slipstream Chipotle is happy having 2 riders up in this move. Will Frischkorn looking very good, and he's got Michael Friedman with him. They can play off of each other, and Friedman becomes one of our favorites for the win. As you can see, they are now in Springfield here once again. Circuits are the order of the day. The crowd will be treated to some great racing, 17 minutes. And so Dominguez showing us right now what he's saying is he's not even worried about protecting that yellow jersey. They've let it go way too far out to even think about chasing it back. And you get the feeling that Toyota United never planned on protecting that jersey today.
No, the next yellow jersey wearer is going to come from this group in the breakaway. George Hincapie still staying near the front. You get the feeling that this is a stage he wants. He's going to sprint for the finish. He's worked so long, so hard all day. You're going to have to fight Big George if you want it in Springfield.
There's no question this group is not coming back. Who's the best time trialist in the breakaway right now? Well, there's a man that's hitting out, Will Frischkorn, attacking, and this is really what Slipstream Chipotle has become very good at. They are putting on a clinic right now on how to 1-2 out of a breakaway, because his teammate Michael Friedman will sit back in the group, and if Will Frischkorn is caught, he will be one of the freshest riders for the kick to the line.
Well, George Hincapie is by himself. Unlike Slipstream, there was only one Discovery rider in this group. If George wants to win, he's going to have to take it all on his shoulders. And that peloton, they're so far back down the road, they're in another Missouri county at this point. It's going to take them quite a while to cross the finish line. The guys in the breakaway are already going to be on the bus down to Branson for the time trial tomorrow.
The men in the group you're looking at now will be racing for 13th as the very best in the overall. Back to the breakaway, Valery Kobzarenko looking very nervous right now. He's expecting another attack to come, and there goes Andrew Randell of the Symmetrics team as he lights a rocket. You can see immediate reaction. So no quarter asked for, no quarter given in the breakaway right now, and I would not be surprised at all to see a counter off of the attack from the Canadian Randell. There's another Canadian there, Dominic Rollin, one of our odds-on favorites to take the stage win today, but it's going to take a mighty, mighty effort to beat a motivated George Hincapie, and Hincapie now realizes that the time gap will be so significant that the winner of the Tour of Missouri is in this group right now, and George Hincapie has to believe he's the best time trialist of this breakaway.
Well, the individual time trial is tomorrow in Branson. Most felt that was going to be the decisive day, but that could just be a day to cement what's happening here since such a huge gap is formed.
Well, Randell, Frischkorn, and Rollin, followed by Michael Friedman, then George Hincapie. And Hincapie is showing the patience right now that he needs to, because he's waiting. They're going to have 1 kilometer to go when they make their way underneath the red kite here, and George has got himself right where he wants to be. You mentioned Steve, he doesn't have a teammate with him. Well, this man rides with the strength of 10.
Well, George has not really contested finishes like this the last couple of years. He was more of a true sprinter earlier in his career. He's developed into more of an overall type of rider, but he'll have to win the sprint here today, it looks like.
And it was the stage into San Jose at the Tour of California, the first year of that race that George Hincapie won out of a breakaway just about this size and just about this quality. We'll see if he can back it up with a win here at the Tour of Missouri. Everyone now trying to find the right wheel. That's Frank Pipp of HealthNet Max is sitting right on George Hincapie. I couldn't imagine a better place to be in that group. And right behind Pipp, it is Michael Friedman of Slipstream Chipotle. So all of our sprinters have gotten up near the front. The riders who don't believe in their kick here today are going to try to attack out of this group. One last minute effort here, and boy, Hincapie just so attentive. He is all over the front of the breakaway. No one's going to go clear or get a gap on George without him responding. There goes Michael Friedman now. Michael Friedman has buried the accelerator.
And now Slipstream really trying to soften up the legs of George Hincapie on the streets here of downtown Springfield on another gorgeous day for racing. And the sprint is now on, and it's going to be Hincapie taking it at the line. He was the strongest all day, and he's the strongest to the finish line here today in southwestern Missouri. He takes the victory in stage 2 of the inaugural Tour of Missouri.
Well, I knew that when we had 30 seconds, I was trying to get the guys motivated because we had 12 strong guys up there, and it would have been hard for any team. Even if it was us chasing that, the way we were going, it would have been hard for anybody to catch. And once I knew we got up to a minute, then I knew we'd get a big gap.
Well, Hincapie was clearly all in on the breakaway today. It looked like he was not only the strongest rider in that group, but he certainly did a lot to motivate the other riders to continue working all the way to Springfield. And George Hincapie not only will win the stage, but he now becomes a very, very big threat to win the Tour of Missouri. George Hincapie, Dominic Rollin, Frank Pipp rounding out our top 3. The hard-working Valery Kobzarenko in 4th, and the German on Spanakase, Stefan Paranusa in 5th. Hincapie receives the coveted yellow leaders jersey here at the Tour of Missouri.
So George Hincapie slips on the yellow jersey for the first time at the Tour of Missouri here in Springfield.
The great thing about having something that is creating national interest, being here in Branson, it's a great way to showcase what we do have in Branson, and for the media that is coming into town to cover the race to also find out a lot more about what is happening in Branson. And I can't think of a better place to be than Branson, Missouri.
and the manager of Liverpool Legends. But the question today is, who's going to be the legend in Branson at the individual time trial, stage 3 of the Tour of Missouri?
There's a very European-like feel at the start ramp, and that is Matti Helminen, the Finnish national champion, not only reigning, but 3-time Finnish national champion. He spent a lot of time off the back of the group yesterday, so coming in with some fresh legs as we watch one of our American heroes, Danny Pate, the former U23 world champion back in 2001. And Pate is certainly one of our favorites here today. We're going to go back up and take a look at the sweet form of Matti Helminen. He's on a great ride today.
And again, a reminder that the start order for the individual time trial is the reverse order of the current general classification. So our leader, George Hincapie, will be the last man down the start ramp today. These some of the early starters you're watching.
Well, the recently crowned NRC winner, Rory Sutherland, the Australian, is out on course. We take a look at Danny Pate. Now Pate coming off a second at the U.S. Pro Time Trial Championship in Greenville just a couple weeks earlier. Obviously, the form is very good. He had a huge ride at the Tour of Ireland just 1 month ago. So Pate really in a sweet spot right now here at the Tour of Missouri. As a matter of fact, I get the feeling that this man has really brought his A game this year.
Sunny skies greeting the riders for the third consecutive day as the Tour de France winner Alberto Contador begins his ride on the Branson Landing. And this course today, 18 miles of very undulating roads. It's especially technical in the first section right here before it moves on to the wider open highway section of the course.
Yes, Sutherland flogging himself right now. Looks like he's got some very good leg speed. Going back to Contador, it really was interesting to see the crowd in Branson was so not only into the race and the racing, but they seemed very well educated about who the riders were in the field. And this is Rory Sutherland. No way to find a rhythm on this course. As a matter of fact, as we watch Sutherland right now making this hard right-hand turn, you really do get the feeling that it's going to be the rider that comes closest to finding his rhythm that's going to take out the stage win today. Here is your 10-time Australian national champion, winner of this discipline at the Commonwealth Games, Nathan O'Neill, in his Australian national champions jersey. O'Neill is certainly a 4-star favorite here today.
Now, Alberto Contador and the rest of the Discovery Channel team now shifting roles, riding in support of George Hincapie, who won the yellow jersey by a huge margin yesterday. And Alberto can see his Minuteman up the road. That's going to give him an extra source of motivation.
Your riders starting at 1-minute intervals until we get down to the final 10. They're starting at 2-minute intervals here at the stage 3 of the Tour of Missouri. Ben Day, another Australian who can claim that he's a national champion in this discipline. And Day, another rider we'll keep a close eye on as the Navigator strongman heads out on course. It's 18.1 miles is the total distance. Probably the hardest 18 miles our riders will race this year. Back to O'Neill.
And one of the difficult things about a course like this, it's really difficult to gauge your effort because you're constantly going up and down. It's not one of those long, flat time trial courses that sometimes you'll see at a Grand Tour, so it's really difficult to keep your cadence and keep that rhythm.
And rhythm is the word, and Nathan O'Neill has found his. O'Neill looking very smooth. Darren Lill, the South African on Navigators, taking his start. You know, Lill, one of these riders who's well suited to this course as far as physiologically, and the question becomes, how good is he at the sweet science of time trialing? There's a man who clearly knows how to race against the clock. Alberto Contador looking well within himself right now.
Contador out of the saddle here in Branson, deep in the Ozark Mountain region of southern Missouri. And now Danny Pate, new best time out on the road.
Well, and Pate right now, we saw him a little bit earlier with that flick of the wrist as he was finding a bigger gear. Pate is very well suited to the effort that is required here today. As Danny Pate, you just mentioned, our best at the time check. We do still have some heavy hitters back in the start house, including our yellow jersey, George Hincapie.
But Pate right now trying to ride his way to a first place time. But there is Levi Leipheimer, who won the final individual time trial at the Tour de France this July. And he's begun his ride here in Branson.
Navigator strongman Ben Day, another rider in the field who has extensive European experience. You can see him scooting back on the bike, just trying to maintain his position. It requires the utmost in concentration. And boy, we take a look at the bicycle underneath Day. That's not a bicycle. That is a weapon, severely depleting the world's carbon fiber supply. As the Australian, you can see him fighting to inch back on that saddle there. Now we're looking at Matty Helminen. This very well could be our best time out on course. He's about to go by his 6-minute man just in England here. A phenomenal ride for the Finnish national champion, and Helminen through with a 41.04, and that'll put him in first. Now, Nathan O'Neill about to take a tackles man down here. O'Neill is flat out flying on this section of the course. You can see how he's staying in his aerodynamic position. Other riders are up out of the saddle. O'Neill is an absolute time trial specialist.
And it requires a lot of power to do exactly what Nathan O'Neill is doing right here, but this is his specialty. He's done it so many times before. He's won these time trials on so many different types of courses, and that will give him an extra sense of confidence riding this very hilly time trial course today in Branson.
Nathan O'Neill putting together a great ride today. He's one of the few riders that has had a good look at this 18.1 mile course as he was out reconnoitering just a couple weeks before the event. And now Levi Leipheimer, an odds-on favorite to take out the win here today. The winner of the final time trial at the Tour de France, as you mentioned earlier. You can see how he has refined his position. A lot of discussion about the position of those aero bars. They've been creeping upwards a la Floyd Landis in the praying Landis position, but it looks like he's got them level to the ground like the UCI requires. And here we are looking at another big engine heading out on course. That's Dominique Rollin.
And that means there's only one rider left to start, our leader, George Hincapie. But further up the road, it's Alberto Contador passing another Minuteman. He's out of the saddle as he rides uphill.
There really are two races within the race here at Stage 3 in Branson. The battle for the stage win, and obviously Levi Leipheimer, Matty Helminen, and Nathan O'Neill are locking horns out on course. But also the breakaway yesterday. 12 riders went into Springfield. One of them looks to be your odds-on favorite to win the Tour of Missouri. And this man in yellow, our 4-star favorite, George Hincapie, is out on course.
Danny Pate finishing off what he believes is going to be a terrific time here. It's uphill to the line, and it's up to the top of the standings, just behind our current leader, Matty Helminen. He's in a second place.
Boy, Hincapie has it pinned right now. You can see the effort starting to show on his face. I think that's also showing us how much the win here at the Tour of Missouri means to him. He's gone to the team. He's got what he knows is the strongest team that we've seen racing in North America, really in the modern era, backing him up here at the Tour of Missouri. But today, the weight of the world is on his shoulders. He needs to deliver a solid ride here, and it looks like he's doing exactly that as Hincapie has the accelerator buried.
Both Hincapie and his teammate Levi Leipheimer, who are out on course right now, rode this time trial route earlier today, so they have a good sense of what it's going to take. We'll see if it translates into a good time here this afternoon.
Rory Sutherland, our NRC champion, as he brings it to the line, an all-out effort from Sutherland. And we're going to go back onto course right now. Wearing number 2 is Levi Leipheimer. Alberto Contador with the number 1 on his back. There is no defending champion at the Tour of Missouri. There is no world champion here. So Contador, on the basis of his Tour de France win, receives that honored number 1 bib. Levi Leipheimer, though, number 2 in nobody's book here today, because Leipheimer really is one of the best time trialists in the world. Clearly his motivation is sky high today. He doesn't need to worry about protecting George Hincapie. He's all in on his own ambitions, and Leipheimer is crushing it.
And with Levi Leipheimer racing his final race here for the Discovery Channel at the Tour of Missouri, and now protecting George Hincapie as Contador comes to the line, moving up into second place. Leipheimer is going to have today as his final opportunity to really make one big statement for himself.
Both Leipheimer and Contador have yet to announce what team they'll be riding for the 2008 season. Certainly the rumor on the Tour of Missouri this morning around the start ramp was Astana, as Johan Bruyneel has also been linked to that team. We'll have to see how that plays out as we watch the very smooth George Hincapie. The word is souplesse, that beautiful pedal stroke. And George looking very good right now. George will be looking for his 2-minute man up the road, and he knows if he can make that catch, he'll have done enough work here today that he should be good to stay in the yellow jersey, not only through Stage 3, but all the way into St. Louis, the final day of racing coming up on Sunday. So there he is. Hincapie has got Rollin right where he wants him. So as Hincapie continues to stalk Dominique Roland at this point. He'll be closing that gap down. We're going back to Levi Leipheimer here. Leipheimer about to catch his teammate, that's John Devine. Not a great split time for Levi, but one thing, Steve, about Levi Leipheimer is he really does come on hard. He is a closer when it comes to time trials.
And really trying to make this a 1-2 punch for Discovery today. Can Levi pick up that time on the last part of the course, perhaps win the stage, keep George in the yellow? Discovery would have one man winning, another man on his way to overall victory perhaps, so that could make it a huge day for Disco if Leipheimer can get the overall win today.
Nathan O'Neill, the sweet, sweet science of time trialing, something this man understands possibly better than anyone else in the world. He takes so much pride in his time trialing ability. He's generally been either winning every race that he starts in North America on his time trial bike or finishing as the top non-Pro Tour rider. And I think Nathan would really like to forget about Pro Tour and just take the outright win here in Branson today.
And there's a reason these guys like Leipheimer, O'Neill, Hincapie are so good in this time trial discipline. They work on their technique. They spend time in the wind tunnel. They go out on reconnaissance missions. They practice the time trial. Other riders don't do that, and you need that sort of practice to develop your cadence, your rhythm, and know how to turn in a good performance.
Yeah, if you want to perform at this level, you're going to need to spend at least 2 days a week out on your time trial bike. Generally, riders will follow up a regular training ride with a half-hour to 1-hour effort on these unique machines. And as you mentioned, the wind tunnel, that's expensive time. It really is. And there's a couple low-speed wind tunnels that are used extensively here in America. And I know Levi has been down in San Diego refining his form. We take a look at Nathan O'Neill, and O'Neill is now into the final few meters here. He left it all out on course today. A sensational ride from O'Neill. As we go back now, Dominique Roland is the rider that George Hincapie is about to catch and pass here. Hincapie, brilliant today.
And really a unique moment, because this could be that one decisive moment where Hincapie realizes that he could right now be winning the Tour of Missouri, solidifying his place after yesterday's Stage 2 win to Springfield. He's ridden the kind of time trial that he's wanted, kept all of his main threats in check, and now it's going to be a matter of his team protecting him. But Hincapie really right now in a terrific position.
Start position determined by reverse order of the GC, so he knows he's chasing the rider who was closest to him at the start this morning. And George Hincapie really considered to be the gold standard of American Classics riders, and I think confidence has never been an issue for George.
And Hincapie now riding past the 3 kilometers to go mark, and now about to absorb Dominique Roland. And boy, will this be a good feeling, especially when you're suffering and pedaling uphill, knowing you're about to catch the man who's only 4 seconds away from you on GC.
Yeah, Hincapie's not going to absorb here. He's going to make the catch and then hit the dump button as he goes right by Roland here, clearly moving at about a 5% faster speed than Dominique as he's making his way into the final tough sector of our time trial here today, and Hincapie just looking gold.
And one advantage he will have, as I mentioned earlier, riding this course this morning, he will know that it's very much uphill in the final kilometer, especially a last little kick over the final few hundred meters. You got to get out of the saddle, do some climbing. It's a very tough finish after riding so hard over 18 miles.
And back at the finish line now, we're watching. It looks like Darren Lill, the South African, he's slotted in the top 10 at 7th right now. Boy, there's the man that everybody was talking about this morning in the start area, Levi Leipheimer. Boy, does he look smooth here into the final few hundred meters. This is going to be a very tough man to beat. We saw Nathan O'Neill put together a sensational ride. Leipheimer has picked off 6 riders along the way here today as he makes his way into the final stretch, and Levi Leipheimer looks like he is on track for the best time of the day. Will Leipheimer go inside that team time of O'Neill? And he does. Our new leader with a 39.37, currently in first. And it's going to be hard to imagine anyone going faster than Levi today.
Boy, only 2 guys cracking the 40-minute mark. It's Leipheimer in first, Nathan O'Neill in second. Now George Hincapie about to go under the red kite, meaning 1K to go. He knows he doesn't have to win this time trial today. He knows he's done a good ride. Just try to hold it to the finish and solidify a top 10 on the day. That would be a huge victory for George Hincapie.
What a season Levi Leipheimer has had, going all the way back to the Tour of California. He had some huge wins along the way, including a podium performance at the Tour de France. He won the time trial there. We've talked about that earlier in the show. And now, as we take a look at the yellow jersey, this is George Hincapie here into 300 meters to go, and it looks like he's done all the work he needed to do to not only retain this jersey, but actually grow the gap as the Tour of Missouri has become George Hincapie's race to lose.
150 meters to go, the final man on the course. Now beginning the uphill final 100 meters of this very difficult time trial course. George hearing the applause from these sizable crowds in Branson, and his time 6th best on the day, and his lead now grows in the overall, but it's his teammate Levi Leipheimer who takes the day in Branson.
No, I did my best. I didn't have my best legs, but I think I knew I had good enough legs to win, so I pushed very hard.
And George Hincapie remains our leader here at the Tour of Missouri. Will Frischkorn, great time trial for Will today. He'll slot in at second. David Cañada in third. Dominique Roland sliding down to 4th place. And Michael Friedman rounding out our top 5. We'll be back with more from the Tour of Missouri.
Gorgeous weather continues to follow the Tour of Missouri, and today we're in Lebanon for the start of stage number 4, the longest stage of this year's tour, 133 miles from Lebanon north through the Lake of the Ozarks region to the central Missouri town of Columbia.
We were joined by 600 elementary school students at the start here today. And clearly Alberto Contador is enjoying his time racing in the United States. It's been great to see a smile on his face each morning. So the group rolls out. There's the students that we had a chance to hang out with earlier this morning as they had a real treat. Lebanon, this area where we're starting, is basically the events rec center there, and I bet you they've never seen anything quite like the Tour of Missouri.
Now, Lebanon, a growing city in south central Missouri. And the riders here early on in the stage taking a chance to chat it up a bit. And there's Levi with the race leader, George Hincapie.
Yeah, joking around with Chris Weary from Durango, Colorado. I see Nathan O'Neill up there as well.
And that's not Nathan, by the way, who we just saw, that cow there. Don't mistake the pictures.
Well, they do call him the Bull, and there's a good reason for that, because he absolutely charged through the time trial yesterday. The peloton now rolling 133 miles today. What we've seen so far at the Tour of Missouri, though, riders not easing their way into the day. We've seen breakaways forming very, very early, and it looks like they are right back at it. As they say, oftentimes a lot of these riders who attack early are as strong as an ox, nearly twice as smart.
Now, everybody starts to pay attention when the riders come by, and now, hey, let's see if we can get in the break. That's what they're doing. Can they bridge across?
Well, there's Heath Blackgrove there on the front. I see young Timmy Duggan moving his way up. What a phenomenal season Timmy Duggan has had this year. And there goes Duggan to the whip now. It looks like he's going to take Mike Sayers with him. And this is what we've been talking about day after day, the formation of the breakaway, how dynamic this is, how you have to get the mix right, and how quickly the teams respond if they don't feel that it's in their best interest. So Kodak Gallery, Sierra Nevada, sending a rider up to the move. Everyone will look around once again. They will take inventory and decide whether this move looks good or not. It looks like this one is starting to get some legs. DFL looks like they might be sending Cameron Jennings up right now. So we're starting to see more and more. You can just see them jumping, trying to go from station to station, group to group. That's how the breakaway forms. You so rarely see this when you watch the coverage of the Tour de France, as they'll generally cover the final 2 hours of racing. But this dynamic, and the directors will tell riders you need to be in this move. Well, you start to get a feel for how hard it is. It looks like Phil Zychek of the Navigators team has found his way onto the back of this group, and there's some serious horsepower right here. As I see, it looks like Mark Walters of Kodak Gallery, Sierra Nevada.
And to give some overall context to the strategy for the race now, with the individual time trial in the rear view mirror from yesterday, it's very defined in terms of the tactics. George Hincapie is firmly entrenched as our race leader. Discovery Channel has taken on the role as the responsibility of protecting George, protecting that yellow jersey. They now have the mandate to bring home these breakaways, to ride at the front of the peloton and control the race.
Yeah, it is clearly less chaotic on the Tour of Missouri today. Discovery Channel really doing what they do best, going to the front and riding for their team leader. You can see in the yellow jersey, that is George Hincapie. He's sitting about 7 riders back. And now this breakaway looking very solid. Colavita Sutter Home looks like they got Davide Frattini. We've seen him trying to get in breakaways throughout the Tour of Missouri. You know, it's these usual suspects are the riders that you usually see in these moves. Cameron Jennings was the DFL rider. Jeff Lauder, Health Net. He's currently in our King of the Mountains jersey. That's sponsored by Michelob Ultra, and that's Lauder on the very back of the group as they are in the heavy rotation right now. And looks like pretty good representation from the American squads as well. The one team that's not in the move, the gap at 135, would be the Discovery Channel team, and they're very comfortable riding tempo right now for George Hincapie. They really have one rider that they're keeping a very close eye on. That would be Will Frischkorn of the Slipstream Chipotle team. A couple other riders a little bit further down on GC. They'll, not give much leash to at all, and that would be Dominique Rollin and David Cañada of the Prodier Saunier Duval team. But this break looking rock solid right now.
Well, we had the individual time trial yesterday. Our last day of point-to-point racing was the race from Clinton to Springfield, where that 12-man breakaway got over 14 minutes on the field. George Hincapie won the sprint that day. He's wearing the yellow jersey today as a result of that. Make no mistake, Discovery will not give that much leash to this field. It's up to 2:40 right now, but we're not going to see the huge time gaps the way we did the other day.
Well, Discovery Channel knows nobody in the breakaway is any threat at all. We'll be back with more at the Tour of Missouri.
Stage 4 now taking this lead group of 3 riders left in the day's primary breakaway into Jefferson City. This is the Edward Jones Intermediate Sprints as they come into the state capital.
And that is Lauder there, your Michelob Ultra King of the Mountain, picking up a $1,500 bonus across the line. We'll be back in Jefferson City tomorrow morning for the start of Stage 5, but Lauder really one of the more comprehensive Americans in the field. He can do it all. And he says, I'm supposed to be a climber. Well, he was the best sprinter out of that group. It looked like Stephen Koza in his Build-A-Bear Best Young Riders jersey was one of the men contesting. Gap goes up to 3 minutes and 15 seconds. They've got 14 minutes to play with right now. So there is no alarm bells ringing whatsoever. Discovery Channel riding tempo, and they look very comfortable right now. No worries at all as we go back up to the breakaway. And this is a very different group than what we saw on Stage 2, where it was a top-heavy group, where George Hincapie almost had to coax the rest of the riders in the break to work. Here, this is such an evenly matched group, and we're seeing Colavita Sutter Home rider Dan Vaillancourt on the wheel of Jacob Rosenbarger. Navigators rider Darren Lill got right behind him. Justin England, rider Hejdahl is there. And we just saw, once again, the King Michelob Ultra King of the Mountain, that being Jeff Lauder. So I really like the makeup of this group. There's no big threat on the GC or the overall, and you got a lot of riders who at pretty equal levels. They should be working well together out there.
Makes it a little easier day for Discovery Channel as well, because they can give the break a little leash, not too much, because you always want to create a margin of error for your leader, George Hincapie. So you give him a little rope to work with, just not too much, but these guys can certainly get somewhat of a gap, maybe enough to allow them to have that belief in their legs that maybe they can take it all the way to Columbia and just fight it out amongst themselves for the stage win. We'll have to see.
Well, the director sportif will typically tell a rider in a break like this, don't do any more work than any other riders in this group, but everyone working at an equal level right now. That once again is a great indicator as we take a look at the entire group on another one of these nasty little hills that they've got throughout the Tour of Missouri this year. It's interesting, Steve, when you look at it, it's almost easier to take your climbing in big chunks, going 3,000-4,000 feet at a time rather than 60, 70 feet climbs over and over. It's the Chinese water torture of bike racing. We're looking at the gap still continuing to grow, but once again, as that is Fuyu Li, the Chinese rider on Discovery Channel. And he's actually been doing a lot of work here today. He's turned himself into a very useful teammate.
And we're back to the leaders now. This group has been off the front for the last few hours. Jacob Rosenbarger of BMC giving way to Dan Vaillancourt of Colavita Sutter Home. As you see the rotation working very fluidly, everybody taking their turn, and that's the only way that a break can succeed on a race day like we have here today.
So now the gap coming down, it's just a little under 4 minutes at 3:55. That is Swain Tuft, currently leading his white jersey. He is a teammate of the Symmetrics team, but he is currently leading the UCI American Continental contest, and as the best rider on the basis of UCI points. Breakaway's coming back. I really thought these guys would stay out in the wind for a bit longer here, but just, you know, with Discovery Channel riding tempo, sometimes they're just so strong that they bring back groups that they didn't even mean to bring back.
Meanwhile, other guys are dropping off the tail end of the peloton as the result of their speed. And now most of the breakaway being caught right now. There are still 2 riders up ahead on the road, but the majority being gobbled up right here as we are now on the flatter roads that lead into Columbia.
Jeff Lauder of the Health Net Maxis team and Darren Lill, the South African on Navigators, are the 2 riders that are off the front, holding on to about a 15 to 20 second advantage here. As you can see, a little bit of disorganization now as the riders coming back to the group, and it looks like they're going to bring these 2 back as well. That look over the shoulder tells us that the catch has been made, so we'll hit the reset button here one more time. Not just Discovery Channel, you can see them constantly near the front, but the sprinters teams really are starting to exert themselves here, as we've seen Prodier Saunier Duval, and of course the Symmetrics team. No Toyota United outside of Heath Blackgrove, who's been on the front, and it looks like they're going to start bringing Ivan Dominguez forward as it starts to hot up here as we make our way into the final miles on the way into Columbia.
Now down along College Avenue, passing by many of the fraternities here at Mizzou, which they affectionately call the University of Missouri Columbia. Only one left-hand turn left to go on the Walnut, and then a straight, flat finish to the line.
And it looks like we've got a couple bids going here right now. Riders attacking all over the place. They are inside 1K of racing to go. Oh, wow. They are definitely bumping here, trading some paint, it looks like, and a strong move is coming. This gap starting to be opened up here. We'll see if this rider is able to hold them off. It certainly seems unlikely with so many sprinters teams here looking to set up their strong man.
And now the left-hand turn onto Walnut. There's a short incline right here, and then it flattens out to the finish, maybe even ever so slightly downhill, which is going to make it very enticing for these sprinters teams. And here comes the field. They make the left-hand turn, and now the race to the line.
That's going to be a very tricky corner to negotiate. We'll see if everyone gets through safely, and it looks like they have, as the peloton now is full gas on the way to the line. This downhill sprint certainly favors Ivan Dominguez and the big, fast Brazilian, Luciano Pagliarini. You can see everyone scrambling right now. A little bit of Health Net on the front. We saw some late race attacks. It looks like Slipstream Chipotle is trying to get Brad Huff forward. Brad Huff desperately looking for a win here at the Tour of Missouri in the yellow right up the middle. That is Pagliarini, and it looks like he's going to hold on. A charge coming. Oh, wow, Symmetrics. Oh, and Pinfold almost got him on the line, but the victory salute from Luciano Pagliarini as he posts it here in Columbia. Pinfold second, Dominguez third, Charles Dion first time in our top 5 and 4th.
I believe so much. I believe it in this arrive, and I did work my team, and I was in not good position on the next turn, but I see a little roll, and I go there, and I am so a very luck for me.
The flamboyant Brazilian with the national flag draped around his neck, but no change in the overall GC. George Hincapie continues to be our leader by 1 minute 40 seconds over Will Frischkorn. David Cañada still sitting in 3rd place, but this man of the Prodier Saunier Duval team, Luciano Pagliarini, is your winner on stage number 4, taking the sprint in Columbia. George Hincapie, though, still wears yellow.
This race was as well organized as the Tour de France. It's enormously gratifying, and we look forward to putting Missouri on the map again in pro cycling in 2008.
It has been a wonderful first-year race, and now we are in Jefferson City, the capital of Missouri, for the penultimate stage. It is stage number 5.
Chris Baldwin signing some autographs here. Chris really is one of the great guys in the peloton. As the Toyota United rider's been working hard. They've lost a couple teammates along the way. Jose Manuel Garcia, they call him Chepe. He was out on the time cut after stage 1 working for Ivan Dominguez. Sean Sullivan also no longer in the race as the Tasmanian has come down with a respiratory infection. Governor Matt Blunt was on the race just about every start and finish as he will send them off on their way to St. Charles here. A couple circuits in Jefferson City. The turnout once again sensational. We didn't have a start or finish along the way up till this point. And once again, this is the start of stage 5 here as the field rolls out. It's a chilly morning, and certainly riders with the arm warmers on. We'll see if they're going to be stripping that off later in the race. If things are going to warm up, that's what they're predicting out on course. It's about 80 degrees in the Finnish city of St. Charles as we take a look at the Capitol building.
And rolling away from the state capitol, the riders actually passed through Jeff City yesterday on their way to Columbia, then making the trek back south again today to actually start today's stage here in Jeff City. And now we ride west to east towards the historic St. Louis suburb known as St. Charles, just about a 30-minute drive west of downtown St. Louis.
Well, Grupo Compato, as well, it looks like Ivan Dominguez is going to take the jacket off. We'll see if he's got a teammate who will run that back to the car for him, and Heath Blackgrove looks like he will oblige. And what we're really doing right now is keeping Ivan as fresh as possible for the final stage, as he's looking to bookend this race this year, winning in Kansas City on stage 1, and obviously a big day coming up in St. Louis on Sunday, and Dominguez has his teammates doing these little jobs for him along the way that help keep him fresher as he rolls by Swain Tuft, once again our UCI Continental leader. And the peloton looking relatively relaxed right now, Steve.
Nice to have guys like that around you. As a matter of fact, if you wouldn't mind taking my jacket and going hanging up now, that'd be nice. Thanks. There's you see the race leader, George Hincapie, in yellow, tucked very safely within the confines of the peloton, nestled right where he wants to be, pretty much out of trouble and having a very leisurely day so far.
Yeah, if you look at all of the Grand Tours, and we do consider Missouri to be one of the American Grand Tours at this point, along with the Amgen Tour California and the Tour de Georgia, and I don't know that we've had a more comfortable leader with 2 stages of racing remaining than George Hincapie, and a lot of it has to do with these men right here. His Discovery Channel team, once again, their last major race together, and certainly their last race in the United States, and they're going out, I think, the way they wanted to. Very class act. Johan Broyneel has got a strong squad, and they are firing on all cylinders. First breakaway looks like it's starting to form here. Tekos certainly deserves some credit. They have come on strong in the final stages here, and we're seeing, wow, the man who ended up 3rd in the time trial in Branson, Matty Helminen, is in this group. And you see Danny Pate there as well. We've got some very strong time trialists here. Ian McKissick, the young man out of the Northwest on the BMC team, and there's Jeff Lauder. Lauder right now really protecting his Michelob Ultra King of the Mountain jersey. There are some points on offer today, and if he can pick those up, he will be a mortal lock to hold on to that jersey. All he needs to do is finish in St. Louis.
This is a very hilly day. Nothing too prolonged in terms of the climb. Some short, steep, punchy climbs along the way as this route takes the riders through the Missouri wine country. Towns like Augusta, Washington, Herman, very historic little towns of German heritage. They will all be featured along the route today, so certainly some climbing in their legs on tap.
Well, you're just looking at the biggest danger man in this group, Danny Pate of the Slipstream Chipotle team. There is Matty Helminen. Boy, and once again, a sensational Tour of Missouri for him already. So the breakaway's gone clear. We'll be back with more action at the Tour of Missouri in just a moment.
Well, for Discovery Channel on the front end of the main field, the last real danger day for them, if you can even call it that, in terms of protecting George Hincapie's lead. Tomorrow we're in St. Louis. It's an entirely circuit race doing laps around the city of St. Louis. Today's the last day on the open road, so really the final day they have to be careful of the other GC threats.
Yeah, the split at 135. That's what they were just showing the breakaway. Peloton will be aware of that as well. Yeah, the sprinters teams will come to the fore certainly on the last day of racing in St. Louis. That's coming up tomorrow. But today, probably the most dangerous move we have seen since stage 2. We also noted Glenn Allen Chadwick is in this group, the current New Zealand national time trial champion. So you've got your Finnish champion, your New Zealand champion, as well as former world champion Danny Pate. Now you're looking at the heads of state of this year's Tour of Missouri, the Discovery Channel team. And one more time, it's the very strong Chinese rider. Boy, he really did turn out to be extremely helpful for George Hincapie's bid. Fuyu Lee on the front. There's Tony Cruz up there as well. John Devine looks like he's been spending some time maybe raiding Lance Armstrong's sock drawer there.
It did look like Lance's socks, didn't it?
So the feed zone right now, that's Danny Pate taking on Nourishment here as Pate, really now, I think, in this group, it's going to come down to, is he patient enough? Because we'll see this group attacking each other like the Donner Party. There's no doubt about it, but eventually something's got to give. It doesn't look like they're coming back as Discovery Channel continues to monitor the situation, keeping it right around 3 minutes right now. They're not going to give them too much more leash here, but I don't think that they're going to be all that motivated to chase this group back.
So whose head is Danny Pate going to have in his freezer at the end of the day today? Who is he going to lop off?
I don't know. You have to look at the Tecos rider. Like, they've been so aggressive. They've been here racing up in North America through the last 3 weeks, and we watched John Freddy Parra, and that's Parra right now in the yellow and red that we see going by our camera. He's attacked very, very aggressively. He's also gone in just about every breakaway that goes up the road. There's Pete Lapinto coming back from Epstein-Barr syndrome. So what a great ride for Pete. Sometimes it's not the victory is in making this breakaway and being able to hang deep into the race. But they're going to start turning the screws in no time at all.
And you saw the pair of Tecos riders in the break. Always helpful to have a teammate alongside you as the main field in excess of 4 minutes behind our leading group out on the road.
That's an interesting shot right there. Discovery Channel on the front, riding for George Hincapie, and then it's Slipstream Chipotle. And, you know, you talk about Discovery Channel as they're leaving the sport. Well, who's coming on strong? Slipstream Chipotle. And they're going to be, I think, America's premier team on the international stage in years to come. So coming out of the Slipstream of Discovery Channel, the Chipotle riders.
They have Danny Pate in the breakaway today. They could very likely have two guys in the top 5 of the overall GC when this race is all said and done. Best young rider, Steven Koza, competing for that. So really not just coming here and maybe taking that symbolic mantle from Discovery Channel, but also producing the results you'd like to see from the next great American team as well.
Well, we're watching, that is Glenn Allen Chadwick there munching on a Cliff Bar as he is keeping his energy levels up. We've got a long way to go here. The breakaway at 4 minutes and 5 seconds. We'll see, is the winner going to come out of this group here as stage 5 of the Tour of Missouri is hotting up.
Beyond our expectations. I think the support of other companies and other cities have gotten behind this and really made this a world-class event. We're very proud to be a part of it.
And Discovery Channel has not only built a bear, they've built a monster over the years in terms of this dynasty they have put together, but racing for the final time here in the U.S. Today, their second to last day as they go from Jeff City to St. Charles.
When's the last time you saw the Tour de France winner, the reigning Tour de France winner, running bottles for the squad? This has been a very interesting Tour of Missouri, as he's got one for George as well. Thank you very much. And Mr. Contador looks like he's got some more bottles he wants to deliver a little further up the line. We've seen Levi doing the same thing here. And now as the road goes up, we're just outside Augusta here, and it looks like our first attack coming out of the breakaway. Anthony Colby, rider from Durango, originally from Boston on the Colavita Sutter home team. But Anthony Colby is on the cusp of having a huge win. Does it come today? Well, we're going to see what the chase looks like soon, because we've got 2 riders who've gone clear, so the breakaway has started attacking itself.
And I think the guy with the American flag around his neck just got pancaked on the road by the motorcycle with the camera. Hard to tell, but he's disappeared. And now Colex and Colby going for the King of the Mountains points here. And this is one of several stages offering KOM opportunities today.
And it looks like Colby's going to drill it here and pick up the maximum bonification. Now, it's an interesting situation. We look back to stage number 2 where the Slipstream Chipotle squad had both Frischkorn and Friedman in the breakaway. Well, the Mexicans, the Tecos team, and actually it is worth noting that John Freddy Parra is a Colombian on this Tecos squad, but Bernardo Colex and John Freddy will certainly be looking for a way to try to tag team out of the breakaway and pick up what would be the biggest win of the year for the Tecos team. Well, it looks like Dominique Rollin has sent his team up to the front. You're looking at Canadian national champion Cam Evans of Symmetrics. Symmetrics, it's really, once again, the usual suspects participating in the chase. Although this is the first time that we've seen Kodak Gallery Sierra Nevada getting organized, it's certainly great to see this squad getting it together here late in the Tour of Missouri. Well, back up to the breakaway, and it looks like this is all over the place, blown to bits right now, but Danny Pate is the rider who has just moved his way up to the men who went over the top of that climb, and that is Colex. And Pate goes. Pate has gone to the whip. You can see the panic bells are ringing, and this could be the knockout punch from Danny Pate right now because he is absolutely bearing it. Danny Pate has been in the bank. He's got the money, and now he's in the getaway car on the way to St. Charles.
And you could see the guys he left in his rear view mirror in his wake. They tried to jump across, but they even realized it. They went too late. They waited too long. Pate has the legs, he has the gap, and now a very legitimate chance of winning this stage.
Yeah, Pate just dimmed the power grid in St. Charles with that massive effort that he made. And we'll see if the former world time trial champion can stay clear. We've talked about what a phenomenal month Pate has had. He believes in himself, and this would be the biggest win in the history of the Slipstream Chipotle squad, and as they have ambitions to take it to an entirely different level next year, this would be a great jumping off point for the squad. Now, what is the gap? It looks like Danny Pate has gone clear. 10 seconds. We understand they're telling us 10 seconds from Pate back to the chase.
But can he hold it? Slightly uphill right here, but he is coming to the end of this race in St. Charles. It's a very flat, straight finish, about 700 meters when you make that final turn. The gap well back, 2.5 minutes, so Pate is going to need some time when he comes to that flat finish so the rest of the peloton doesn't just swoop him up.
Yeah, well, what Pate is counting on is that they don't get organized in the chase. If all of the 8 remaining riders were to start cooperating with each other, they might have a shot at bringing one man back. But Danny Pate right now is counting on the fact that different riders will be hitting out, trying to bring him back. It's a very tricky run-in to the finish line here in historic St. Charles.
Coming off that short section of bricks, now makes the left-hand turn, and from here, it is all dead flat, dead straight, 700 meters. He's about to win this race as he looks over his shoulder and sees that he's got a time gap. Danny Pate is going to know it now that he's going to ride solo to the victory in Stage 5 of the Tour of Missouri, maybe the biggest victory of his career.
A steady state effort gets it done. Pate in no danger at all. He is going to post it. Former world time trial champion and now taking his biggest win on American soil. What a feeling as Danny Pate zips up, the crowd goes nuts, and another worthy winner here at the Tour of Missouri. Danny Pate delivers, and here's the kick now.
And the race for second and third place, and boy, what a recovery for John Freddy Parra of the Mexican Tecos team. Looked like he was going to be dropped earlier. He fights back to take second on the day, but Danny Pate and Team Slipstream with maybe their single biggest result here today in historic St. Charles, Missouri, as they win the stage. Now the rest of the peloton bringing it home down Riverside Drive, running parallel to the Missouri River.
And once again, no problem at all for George Hincapie. They haven't let the gap come even close to being dangerous for them. So really is a sprint of honor at this point. There are still a few Edward Jones sprint points available on the line as they come through. I think Dominique Rollin wants to flex his muscle. Oh, boy. Riders are really shifting all over the place. We've seen some aggressive sprinting throughout the Tour of Missouri. And that will wrap things up here as the peloton comes across the line. Almost 5 hours of racing today.
But it was the American Danny Pate who basically time trialed in from 2K to go, soloing to the win in St. Charles.
I knew if I could get out there, I could probably hold a gap. Everyone was riding really aggressive, and they were all thinking the same thing. So, it was just good timing.
What a win for Danny Pate from Team Slipstream, powered by Chipotle. And then Colombian John Freddy Parr of Team Tecos in second, and Jeff Lauder, currently our Michelob Ultra King of the Mountain, ending up in third, Chadwick for fourth, and Colby for fifth.
And now, maybe the best part of the day for the victor, getting the sandwich kiss from the podium girls. Just planting them on your cheek, left and right, and George Hincapie's going to get some of that lipstick in a second.
And Will Frischkorn holding on at 1 minute and 40 seconds back. David Cañada at 2 minutes 22 seconds. Roulin and Friedman rounding out our top five as we head into our final stage of racing coming up in St. Louis. We'll be back with more for the Tour of Missouri.
Downtown St. Louis for the final day of the inaugural Tour of Missouri, a relatively short 74-mile circuit race around the streets of St. Louis. And there is your leader, George Hincapie. Everybody wants his signature today. If he can basically stay upright on the bike, he is going to lock up this first ever Tour of Missouri.
Swain Tuft and Danny Pate discussing power there. That yellow computer on top of Danny's handlebars is a power tap. As we were treated to an awesome national anthem day after day. I think today's might have been the best of all as we're counting it down. Start once again at 1 o'clock. There was a 1 o'clock start in Kansas City on Tuesday that got us rolling, and now here we are in what surely will be considered a successful Tour of Missouri. Top riders have been called to the front row, and we send them out for 75 miles of racing action here. And once again, today, Discovery Channel, their job is pretty clear-cut. Keep George Hincapie out of trouble, and then allow the sprinters teams to do what they do best, control the race into the finale, and we should have another bunch kick. Well, there's the story of today certainly will be that man, Dominique Roland, and will he be able to take a second back on Pro Sonny Duval rider, David Cañada, who's sitting in third right now. He's actually battling on two different fronts, but he can do it all with the same effort, because if he can pick up sprint points, there's bonus seconds that go along with it, and Dominique Roland might move himself into the Edward Jones Best Sprinters jersey here on the final stage as well. So his Kodak Gallery Sierra Nevada team, this is the final time we'll see this group racing together, as they've announced this morning that sponsorship is being pulled, or at least the Kodak part of it. Sierra Nevada sounds like they're going to continue with the sport. And Navigators, this is a goodbye to Ed Beeman and his Navigator squad. 14 years in the sport. So it's not just Discovery Channel that we're going to be missing next year.
And the first Edward Jones sprint here, the first of three on the day. This in the central west end area of St. Louis, and it looks like it's going to be Roland who is going to take that, and that's going to basically put him on the virtual podium right now with the time bonus. It moves him up into third on the GC.
Well, there's still more bonification out on course today, and including the final sprint where points and time will be on offer, but it looks like we've got our first serious move of the day that has gone clear. We've got four riders off the front. That's Tyler Wren. He's been in quite a few breakaways here this week as well. I could see that's Jeremy Vanel, the New Zealander on the DFL team. They've represented well here through the final stages of racing. And Bernard Van Olden. Van Olden has been in the top five at the National Time Trial Championships the last couple of years. He's had some great rides up at the Nature Valley Grand Prix, as well as Fausto Esparza is the fourth man in this group. And once again, Tecos seems like they've gone in every breakaway that's gone clear through the last three stages.
Yeah, they've really been featured prominently in the breaks here the last few days, and that's what you want from a team that's not contesting the overall GC. You have to get your face out there, and the way you do that is by getting in those breakaways.
The gap at 1 minute and 25 seconds, so they've still got a lot of time to work with back in the peloton. George Hincapie has nothing to be worried about today. He certainly knows that the dynamics of racing will have the sprinters team chasing this group back. Even these four riders up in the breakaway realize that their odds of going to the line are relatively slim, but you certainly at this level understand that in order to win, you've got to risk losing, and that's what these guys are doing here today, showing courage and making the race right now. And certainly in St. Louis, with only 75 miles of racing, it's going to go by very, very quickly here today. And this group charging out, and once again, the split at just about 1 minute and 30 seconds.
This is flat a race course as we have had over the previous 5 days of racing, now here on stage 6. So if there was any stage that was tailor-made for a field sprint, it is here in St. Louis on the final day of this Tour of Missouri, and easy tempo being set right now by the Discovery boys at the front end of the main field.
Former best young rider at the Tour de France, Jaroslav Popovic on the front now as they have controlled this race. They've been so strong here, and George Hincapie, Johan Bruyneel certainly going out with a bang. It's great to see the Stars and Stripes jersey on Levi Leipheimer's shoulders, and it looked like Kodak Gallery Sierra Nevada, who I would have to say in the entire sponsorship run that they have had, their best moments came on their final day of racing as they were able to take Dominique Roland up to the front. We understand from the backside of the course there was some hip checking going on, and clearly the Pro Deer Saunier Duval riders were kind of going to their bag of tricks, trying to figure out a way to put Roland in trouble. He actually had to go up on the sidewalk for a good 50-meter stretch before he jumped back down and was able to take that sprint that moved him into the lead. So on the time board right now, the riders seeing that split.
And you know, Dave, it was really important for Roland to get his time bonus in the first intermediate sprint of the day, because with the feeling that a break would eventually go up the road, that means these guys are going to probably eat up the time in the remaining sprint, so Roland can sort of sit back and feel more comfortable in being in that third place position and getting himself on the podium.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and clearly that did happen here. So they did the work early when they needed to, and certainly everyone has fresh legs at that point, so that was one tough row to hoe. They got the job done, and now, as you mentioned, they only scored 3 deep on the bonus seconds. 3, 2, and 1 seconds removed for your time. And these guys will be gobbling up all of those seconds and points out on course right now.
And approaching the start-finish line here as we continue our circuit race in St. Louis. The 2007 Tour of Missouri has been brought to you by the Missouri Division of Tourism. Close to home, far from ordinary. By Build-A-Bear, where best friends are made. By Monsanto, proud sponsor of the Tour of Missouri. By Edward Jones, making sense of investing. And by Michelob Ultra, live life to the ultra. And the group of 4 riders in this breakaway still trying to bury themselves, stay away as long as possible. The odds, however, very much against them on these flat circuit roads around St. Louis, but now you've got an attack.
It looks like Bernard Van Olden has had enough with that group. He's going to go out on a solo bid to the line. A very strong time trialist, and Van Olden has gone clear now. I don't think they're going to be seeing him again. I would imagine it's going to be the peloton that'll capture him, because that breakaway was looking weary.
Yeah, that's exactly what tends to happen. If you're a rider that senses the break is about to come apart and you've got it in your legs, why not just attack solo?
The gap at 55 seconds, and it looks like Saunier Duval Pro Deer is riding once again. David Cagnata and Luciano Pagliarini on that squad. They've also got Rubens Bertogliati, the former yellow jersey wearer at the Tour de France. But we go back to the front. Bernard Van Olden, a brave bid, but he has got a peloton that is charging right now, and it'll be amazing if Van Olden is able to hold them off. With the sprinters team so hungry here on the final day of the Tour of Missouri, you would expect to see Toyota United sending some men up to the front to help here, and it looks like Health Net Maxis is setting some tempo. We've seen Nathan O'Neill on the front. They're riding for Carl Menzies today. He's also got Rory Sutherland. These are riders from the breakaway that are coming back to the peloton. They've been out in the wind for about 40 miles right now, so some weary legs after a very long 600 miles of racing, even a little more than that at the Tour of Missouri this year.
Well, maybe Van Olden's instincts were right. This break didn't have much gas left, and Therefore, he went out on his own solo attack, and he's now stayed clear of the main field, but he's got quite a ways to race. Perhaps inspired by Danny Pate riding solo to the line yesterday and winning the stage to St. Charles. However, that was a much shorter ride for Pate. He could really put it down and carry that tempo to the line. Van Olden has a much longer road to travel here.
So the fact that this is a circuit race, 7 laps at 10.5 miles apiece, the riders have had a very good chance to reconnoiter the run into the finish line here, and our sprinters teams will know what kind of positioning and when they need to have it. Van Olden is being brought back into the fold. HealthNet continues to set the tempo. That'll certainly mean later in the race we'd expect to see Tasmanian Carl Menzies, as he'll be making a bid for a stage win here at the Tour of Missouri. They've been relatively shut out at this point. Certainly don't want to forget our Michelob Ultra King of the Mountain will be Jeff Lauder today. No mountain points on offer, so that jersey is his, but I think a stage win would be the icing on the cake. And O'Neill has gone to the front with Matt Crane here. Matt Crane, one of the youngest riders in the Tour of Missouri this year, and you can see the Pro Tour heavy hitters, Pro Deer, Saunier, Duval, slotting right in behind them. Boy, Ryder Hesjedal is there, Tim Johnson up there for HealthNet Maxis. So now here comes Dominguez. Is Chris Weary the best in the business? I tell you, if you have someone riding shotgun, you would want it to be Weary. And Weary on the radio letting the team know that I've got Ivan and we are coming forward.
Well, you might remember in stage number 1, Dominguez's teammates were really depleted by the end of that stage. There had been some crashes. They were fatigued. He basically had to find his way through the field to the front in order to win in Kansas City. Looks like right now he's in much better position with teammates around him. And now it's Slipstream up front.
Yes, Slipstream and Chipotle going to be setting up Brad Huff, and that is, boy, the entire team looks like they've come to the front. Huff is a Missouri native. There goes Mike Sayers, a BMC, up on the inside. But anyway, Danny Pate with a great ride yesterday. He's right back at it. Timmy Duggan is up there as well. You can see our Build-A-Bear. That's a different jersey. Build-A-Bear Best Young Rider. That is Stephen Koza, but now it looks like Sayers is attacked inside 1K to go. And the BMC strongman from Sacramento has hit out from the peloton, but boy, they are battling right now. Multiple felonies are going down in that group.
Well, it's going to be hard for him to stay off the front. It looks like the field is going to be together here when they come to the finish, which is downhill for the final 150 meters as they spread out across the road.
And there goes Dominguez up on the inside. You can see Dominguez has hit out perfectly here with the downhill run to the line. Dominguez is clear. Looks like he will post it, and boom!
Oh!
Wow, that looks like Brad Huff, who was desperate to get positioning there. Dominguez wins, but Brad Huff doing an end over end there in the final 50 meters. And oh, this is something we really did not want to see, as it looks like our medical team will be immediately assisting him. And very few men would walk away from a crash like that, and we'll certainly hope that Brad Huff is one of them.
It was very fast, but I was the whole time talking with the boy, hey, take it easy, not yet. And we kind of got like bust up in the end, but I knew I have the leg, so when I went, I have to slow down because I saw everybody sitting in my way. I'm like, eh. So I slowed down a little bit, and I went again, and I took the inside, making sure no one was going to get the inside. So, and from there all the way to the finish, I knew they were not going to pass me. So
Dominguez will get bookend wins here at this Tour of Missouri, stage 1 and 6. And boy, look at that. Brad Huff is back up and on his bike.
His entire team went back to check on his well-being, and that's Ben Raby there, another guy who crashed a couple times here at the Tour of Missouri. And thank goodness Brad Huff has checked out as A-OK.
Team was great. I mean, you have guys like Levi and Contador, first and third in the Tour de France, working for me, and the rest of the guys that I'm normally working with was nice. And it's my last race with the team. It's all of our last races together. So it's great to come out on top.
Now, Hincapie, your winner of the inaugural Tour of Missouri, but the winner of today's Stage 6, Ivan Dominguez, his second stage win of this race. He also won the opening stage in Kansas City, has that sense of drama, knows when to go, and boy, did he go at the right time today.
It's also worth noting what a great ride Symmetrics had, as they had 3 podium appearances, 2 by that man, Andrew Pinfold, and Zach Bell on the first stage, ending up in second, and certainly a great day for Canada as Dominique Rollin ending up in third. So Stephen Koza wins our Build-A-Bear Best Young Rider. James Meadley, the Australian, in second, and Matt Crane in third. Our Michelob Ultra King of the Mountain had Jeff Lauder taking maximum points. Colby second, Colex third. And our Edward Jones Sprint competition, it was Ivan Dominguez taking that jersey. Dominique Rollin second, and Agliarini in third, and then Steve, our Tour of Missouri overall winner, George Hincapie, Will Frischkorngood for second, and rounding out the podium, Dominique Rollin.
In the first 4 stages, we had 110 to 130,000 spectators. Of course, a lot more yesterday, and then a great crowd here. People have really been excited about cycling, both from Missouri and really all over the United States. Excited to be a part of this race. Great volunteers that have made it a well-run, finely oiled operation.
Not many first-year events enjoy the type of reception and the level of success that this Tour of Missouri has over the last 6 days. From Kansas City eastward to St. Louis, we've had the drama, the intrigue, the excitement that is professional road racing on display, and an incredibly popular champion now in George Hincapie. And so now for Dave Towle, I'm Steve Schlanger. We say so long from St. Louis.